There are stars whose presence explodes across the screen. Loud, flamboyant, unforgettable. And then there are stars like Remick, luminous, magnetic, and quietly soul-stirring. She didn't need to shout to command attention. Her artistry spoke in silences, in glances, in subtle gestures that revealed oceans of feeling beneath the surface. More than 30 years since her passing, her legacy still haunts the hearts of those who believe that true beauty lies in restraint, and that true strength often hides behind the softest of voices. Born on December 14, 1935, in Quincy, Massachusetts, Leanne Remick was raised in a home where creativity was deeply rooted. Her mother, Gertrude Margaret Waldo, had once been an actress, and though she stepped away from the stage, she encouraged her daughter's early leanings toward performance. Lee grew up in an atmosphere of cultivated elegance. Her early training in dance at the Swoboda School and later studies at the prestigious Barnard College gave her the poise and discipline that would mark her screen presence for decades to come. She wasn't just born into privilege, she was born into purpose. From a young age, Lee showed an instinctive ability to tap into emotion, not in an exaggerated way, but with an honesty that was almost disarming. Lee's screen debut in A Face in the Crowd, 1957, introduced her as a fresh, naturalistic performer. But it wasn't until Anatomy of a Murder, 1959, that the world truly recognized her gift. As Laura Mannion, the young wife at the heart of a rape and murder case, she delivered a performance filled with complexity, simultaneously coquettish and haunted, confident and deeply insecure. Critics saw in her a kind of duality, an ability to be both ethereal and earthy. She wasn't trying to dominate the screen, she simply belonged there. And then came a role that would forever change her career. In 1962, Remick starred opposite Jack Lemmon in Days of Wine and Roses, a devastating portrayal of a couple destroyed by alcoholism. Her performance as Kirsten Arneson Clay, innocent at first, then painfully lost, was nothing short of extraordinary. It was more than acting, it was transformation. The descent into addiction, the desperation, the love that couldn't save her, all of it was etched into Remick's soulful eyes. She was nominated for an Academy Award, but more importantly, she gave the world a lasting portrayal of the human cost of dependence. No melodrama, no spectacle, just truth. Jack Lemmon later said in interviews that working with Remick changed him forever. "She could break your heart without even speaking," he recalled. In an industry often obsessed with image, Lee Remick stood for substance. She possessed a kind of still beauty, soft, serene, and timeless. With her cool blue eyes and golden hair, she seemed born for the camera. But what set her apart was her refusal to lean solely on her looks. She was drawn to characters with layers, women who struggled, who loved too deeply, who bore quiet pain behind their smiles. Whether it was in The Detective, 1968, where she played a woman at the edge of moral breakdown, or in The Medusa Touch, 1978, where she investigated psychic rage, she brought intensity without ever overplaying. She wasn't loud, but she was unforgettable. As film roles grew less frequent in the 1970s and 1980s, Remick found a new home in television, and she brought the same sophistication and emotional intelligence to the small screen. Her performance as Jenny Churchill in Jenny, Lady Randolph Churchill, 1974, won her a Golden Globe and another Emmy nomination. She followed with celebrated turns in The Women's Room, The Letter, and Emma's War. She portrayed complex women, often wives, mothers, or professionals, in ways that highlighted their emotional depth and independence. She helped redefine what it meant to be a female lead on television. In an era when TV dramas were often male-centered, Lee carved out space for women's stories. Behind the camera, Lee Remick was known for her discretion. Though stunningly famous, she avoided Hollywood parties and scandal sheets. She married director Bill Colleran in 1957 and had 2 children, Kate and Matthew. The couple divorced in 1968, and in 1970 she married producer Kip Gowans, with whom she shared a gentle, private life that spanned 2 decades. There were rumors about the challenges of maintaining her beauty in a youth-obsessed industry, about her occasional battles with depression, and about secret longings she kept from public view. Some have speculated she may have quietly struggled with her identity in an unforgiving Hollywood landscape. But these remain only whispers, as Lee herself never gave the world anything but grace. Her mystery was part of her dignity. She never tried to be a star. She simply was. In 1989, Lee Remick received a diagnosis that would change the course of her final years: kidney cancer. It was the kind of news that might have driven some to retreat entirely, or others to share their pain with the world. But Lee was different. True to the quiet strength she had always carried, she chose not to make her illness a spectacle. There were no press conferences, no interviews, no public appeals. She did what she had always done. She faced it with grace and quiet courage. Even as her health declined, she continued to work. She showed up with the same quiet dignity, the same unwavering professionalism, the same gentle smile. There was no need for fanfare, no need for anyone to feel sorry for her. She didn't want to be seen as a woman fighting a losing battle. She wanted to be remembered as she had always been: an artist, a mother, a wife, and a woman who gave everything she had to her craft. She kept her suffering private, not out of pride, but out of a deep, unwavering belief in the sanctity of her personal life. The woman who had made a living bearing her soul on screen had always guarded her real self fiercely, and in the face of mortality, she chose peace over panic, stillness over spectacle. On July 2, 1991, Lee Remick passed away at her home in Los Angeles. She was only 55 years old. It was a loss that came far too soon, sharp, sudden, and profoundly heartbreaking. The world lost not just an actress of extraordinary depth, but a spirit defined by elegance, honesty, and restraint. For those who knew her work, the news felt like a quiet heartbreak, echoing across the years. And for those who knew her personally, it felt like the world had dimmed just a little. But in the way she chose to leave this world, without drama, without headlines, Lee reminded us, once more, of who she truly was. A woman who never needed applause to know her worth. A performer who didn't need to take a bow. Someone who understood that not all goodbyes have to be loud. Her final battle mirrored the way she lived, quietly, with strength and integrity. No grand declarations, no tragic scripts, just the closing of a chapter, soft and solemn. And yet, in that silence, her legacy grew louder. Her films are still watched, her performances still studied. Her eyes, captured forever on celluloid, still speak volumes. She may have exited life's stage quietly, but the imprint she left behind is anything but silent. Today, when we revisit old films, grainy, sepia-toned windows into the past, there's something quietly haunting about watching Lee Remick on screen. She doesn't explode off the screen with flash or flamboyance. No, her power was subtler, deeper. Her magic came not from spectacle, but from truth. Truth in the eyes, truth in the silence, truth in the smallest of gestures. She never demanded attention. She didn't have to. Her stillness was enough to quiet a room. Her presence was like a soft breeze, unannounced but unforgettable. Lee Remick's legacy is not defined by the number of awards on her mantle or by blockbuster records. It lives on in the way she made audiences feel. In the pause before a line, in the tremble of a smile, in the quiet heartbreak that settled behind her eyes. She didn't just act, she became. She brought emotional honesty to the screen in a way that still disarms viewers, even decades later. In a time when acting is often mistaken for volume, where every emotion is dialed up to 11, Remick's restraint feels revolutionary. She was the rare kind of actress who didn't need to tell us what her character was feeling. She allowed us to sense it, to sit with it, to live inside it. Whether she was playing a troubled wife, a grieving mother, or a woman on the brink, she trusted the audience enough to whisper where others would shout. Her performance in Days of Wine and Roses is still talked about, not just because of the storyline, but because of the soul she poured into it. Watching her unravel on screen didn't feel like watching an actress perform. It felt like witnessing a human being quietly fall apart. It was raw, it was vulnerable, and it was unforgettable. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about Lee Remick was her humility. She never chased the spotlight, never needed to dominate the screen. Instead, she let her craft speak for her. She let the work do the talking. And in doing so, she created something that lasted far beyond her years. Today, younger actors still study her performances, not for technique, but for truth. She is remembered not as a Hollywood icon in the traditional sense, but as something rarer, a mirror to real life. She didn't portray characters, we believed she was them. Her legacy is not just in the roles she played, but in the quiet revolution she led, proof that silence, when used with care, can echo louder than any monologue. Lee Remick reminds us that greatness doesn't always come wrapped in glitter. Sometimes it comes in the form of a glance, a sigh, or a pause that lingers long after the credits roll. She didn't need to shine to be remembered. Her stillness, graceful, human, and honest, was a light all its own. And it still burns, softly, in the hearts of those who remember her. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Whether you stayed for a few seconds, watched all the way through, dropped a like, or left a kind comment, you made a difference, and I felt it.